Today, I'm going to show you one of the craziest deals I've done in my real estate market. I bought a completely trashed house. I mean, buzzards on the roof trashed, and I'm turning it into 3 brand new rental houses. This video actually started as a behind the scenes training in my rental property mastery community known as RPM. I call it Coach's Business Backstage, and I walk members through real deals for my business with full transparency, numbers, and lessons learned. So today, you're also getting that sneak peek, and I'm going to show you how we found this property, how the numbers worked, why we tore it down, how we financed it, and exactly how we turned one nasty house into 3 buildable lots. Hey everyone, I want to go behind the scenes and share a recent deal that my business partners and I did in Clemson. And I've told some of you about this property. It's a existing house with an extra lot. We've torn the house down and we're now building a new construction house. We divided those 2 lots into 3 lots, and then we're building a new construction house. So I want to share the numbers with you, share the story of how we found the property, how we negotiated and bought it, also kind of how we're financing it, where the money's coming from, and what our sort of overall operation and this looks like. So if you have any questions about this, I'm just kind of stream of consciousness showing you a bunch of stuff randomly here. If you have any questions, let me know. My goal here is just to be transparent with you. One of the benefits of RPM, and really I'd love to encourage everybody to do this, is I'm willing to share everything behind the scenes with you to help you learn and grow and get better as an investor. I'm not saying I'm doing all this perfectly, but just want to share these details in hopes that it will help you do more of your own deals, and maybe there'll be a couple insights here and there that can help you do better deals, buy better deals, build better deals. And so let's get started with it. This property is 101 Issaquena Trail in Clemson, South Carolina, which is my home market. You can see it's an old kind of ranch 1950s brick house. The owner of the property had let his family member, I think a daughter or granddaughter, live there for a long time, trashed the house, pets living inside, nasty, just going to the bathroom inside the house, just really, really gross. But good location. So let me show you the kind of the context of Clemson in my buy box. So if you zoom out on Zillow here, 18 Mile Creek is the kind of border line between Pickens County, Anderson County, the town of Pendleton, and Clemson. And my little markets that I really like to focus on are Clemson, Central, Pendleton. They all, right now Clemson University is right here. That's the big draw. There's another town called Seneca nearby across another county. So there's 3 counties here: Anderson, Pickens, and Oconee. And we're right at the kind of corner of those 3. And Clemson is the big draw. So where everybody, people go to school there, faculty members work there. That's like the big factory of our town. There's 20,000 people or so in the city of Clemson. There's about 5,000 to 7,000 in Pendleton, about 5 to 7 in Central. So maybe like 30,000 or more in these 3 towns. Plus you have some university students that live on campus. And then you have Seneca has its, probably 10 to 15,000 as well. So it kind of gives you an idea, like the overall area, the size of the area. My little zip codes are these 3, but I really like the best, all of them have their pluses and minuses, but Central is more affordable than Clemson or Pendleton. Pendleton is a little bit more affordable than Clemson. Pendleton has like an old historic feel. It was like the old historic town before Clemson even existed. And so it's got kind of some character and some cool stuff about it. But I like to be, the school district and everything else in Clemson is probably the best. So that's kind of, plan A is in Clemson. And this property happens to be in Clemson. And it's hard to find lots that are affordable or houses that are affordable in Clemson. So affordable on rent or price. Like you'll see a lot of a lot of houses in the 380s to 500,000. Here's a lot for 160. 489 is just a regular old 2,300 square foot house. New construction has typically been 600 to 700,000. 750 is another example here. 838 in one of the nicer subdivisions. So that kind of gives you a range of prices. This house we thought fixed up on Issaquena Trail. If we would have bought this property and fixed it up by itself, my real estate agent showed me some comps, 300 to 325 for this like ARV for this house. And then the lot, I thought maybe 50,000 to 60,000 bucks would be like the price I could flip it for, sell it to another builder, maybe a little bit more. And then, so that kind of gives you some context of what the values are. But when let me go to the actual listing on Zillow to show you the story of how this all came about. So back in April, I don't know if you remember, we were doing if you're in RPM for a while, we were doing the 90 days to your next deal course, and I was doing that right along with you. And I started reaching out to we had money sitting in this partnership that bought this property, had a couple $100,000 ready to spend on something. So I started looking, and when my real estate agent called me after me telling him, hey, I'm looking for some deals, what do you got? He sent me this one that was on MLS, and I keep track of it on my little piece of white paper, this little spreadsheet paper. And this was the first one that he brought me, 101 Esquina Trail, on April 4th is when we went out to look at it. And right the day it was listed. And so it was actually listed in two parts, the house plus the lot, but together they were 298,000. And they ended up putting them together about a week later. We made an offer then. We made multiple offers all the way up to the end when we finally bought it. They kept on dropping the price because they got it under contract 3, maybe 4 times with other people who then backed out after they did the contingency and saw how either how much work it needed or the fact that the other lot, they couldn't only buy the one lot, and not they wanted both of the lots, and they were only selling one of them. So there's just a whole lot of details behind the scenes, mainly that the property needed a bunch of work and people couldn't get financing to buy it, and at least people to live in it. So that was the original story. They finally came down to 239. Let me show you the numbers on some of that. April 6th, 298.9. We originally offered 250,000 bucks. We had to backtrack that after they were about to accept it or get something close to that, like 255. I'll tell you why. Originally, I thought 300 to 325 ARV, $2,000 in rent minus, use the 50% rule for rough numbers, $1,000 a month in NOI, 12,000 a year at a 5% unleveraged yield. I thought we should have 240,000 max in the house, just the house, not the. And so I assumed $80,000 in repairs, holding costs, closing costs. That was as it turns out in the end, that was too low. I got a rough quote from a builder contractor who gave me that number. Also, my real estate agent thought that he had somebody who could do it for about that much. But so I used that number to make this original offer. $240,000 was my max investment in order to have a 5% unleveraged yield. And I also would have some equity between what I had in it and what the house was worth, 300 to 325. And so 240 minus 80,000 bucks is 160, and I offered 150. Actually, let's say 160. I offered 250. So I also thought that I could build 2 lots. Here's another early mistake I made. I had the house, they had the extra lot. I thought I could divide that extra lot into 2, and I did some bad math on that. Like the way the zoning works is they give you the minimum square footage of each lot in that zoning, and I just did bad math. It was stupid. Like I figured that the house is 12,000 square foot per lot, and that was a 22,000 square foot lot, I think. And it's 12,000 times 2 is 24,000. So I needed 24,000 square feet. And for whatever reason, I just did that math wrong in my head or something, assuming I could do 2 lots whenever I figured out this original number. I thought I could have 2 lots, each worth 45,000 to me. And so I could pay an extra 90,000 bucks. So 160 plus 90 is 250,000 bucks. That was my original offer. We quickly backtracked that because of the lot issue primarily. And so then we went back to them right away and said, hey, we can't do that, 250. What we can do is this, like here, we could do 240 if you'll let us take 100,000 down and do 140,000 in seller financing. They didn't choose to do that. They didn't like that. Or if you just want all cash, 187,500. So I basically had to eliminate the value of one of those lots in order to make this work, and had it a little bit below that. So I just assumed I could have the house plus 1 lot, and they rejected that. They went with somebody else. They again went with when that one fell through, they went with somebody else again. We submitted our same offer like 2 or 3 times. Then May 30th, they finally dropped their price after having 2 or 3 people fall through to 239, and we upped our offer from 187 to 190, and they ended up accepting that. And we went under contract June 16th. We told them we'd close in a couple weeks. So we ended up closing June 27th. So really fast, all cash, no contingencies. Let's go. And so that's when we ended up buying it. So as I got this property under contract, started doing my due diligence, one thing I wanted to make sure is that we could actually build on the property. And I got my builder property manager involved, and he did some due diligence, and he convinced me that instead of remodeling the house, he told me 2 things that kind of changed my mind. One was, he said, if I fix this up, it's not going to be 80, it's going to be more like 100, maybe 120,000 in holding repair cost. So that changed it by like 20 to 40,000 on the repair side. But he also, on the positive side, he said, if you build new houses, I think we can have $350,000 houses instead of $300,000 houses. A little bit more value there. And so he said, my play, he said, if he were me, he would tear the house down and have 3 lots and divide this property, because there was enough square footage to have 12,000 times 3. So we needed 36,000 square feet. We had more than that. And so by zoning, we could build 3 lots, but we had to go through a small lot subdivision in order to do that. So let me show you the plat of what that looked like. So this was we had to hire an engineering firm the day we closed. We hired this firm, and my builder is doing all this for me. By the way, he's making the calls. We're having to pay the bills, but he's doing all the applications with the city, having conversations with the city. And so we took those original. You remember the 2 lots on Zillow? Let's go back to that again. You can see like what that looked like before. Kind of the deeper lot was one, and then the skinnier lot was the second one. And so when you look at it, we took a little bit from the skinnier one to create this middle second lot, but the lot line goes right through the house. So we had to tear the house down, and it wasn't worth saving either. So 3 lots and new construction, we could build on all 3 at one time, which is our original plan. So we started talking to private money lenders. But let me tell you a little bit about kind of how that went, what our numbers look like to build these 3 houses. So here's the analysis. Purchase price 190, a couple grand in closing costs, about 18,000 bucks just to get to clear land, like raw land. So we had to demo the house. We also had to clean up the lot. It had just like mountains and mountains of junk and little trees and just stuff everywhere, little, backyard sheds. And so it took 18,000 bucks to clear all that out. So we have about 210,000 bucks in our land costs, not including the development and sewer taps and stuff like that. But divided by 3, that means we have $70,000 per lot. And when I got quote from my builder to do the development plus the build cost on a similar house to what we had already built in Seneca last year, so we had exactly the floor plan that we wanted to build, and he quoted me 210,000 bucks. His hard cost would be about 170,000 plus or minus. It's always a little bit different. That's what we had on our other house that we built together. And so he's not a partner on this deal with us. He was a partner on the other one with us. We're just hiring him to do it. So he's going to make about a 40K fee on each one of these properties. So for my total cost is 210, but it's going to be about 40K to him, 170 hard costs plus or minus. And just for perspective, he's building the house, 170K hard costs, about a 1,700 square foot house. That's about $100 a square foot, which is really, really low compared to other people I've seen. And there's not cutting corners. He's just got really good prices from contractors, and he's very deliberate about this is the most efficient model he's got. Some of his other houses would cost more per square foot. This one's really efficient. I'll show you the floor plan here in a minute. But our total cost would be about $130 per square foot, which is also good for me. Yeah, I think retail price is probably $200 a square foot. So 130 is our cost. Let's see, including the land maybe. No, our cost with just his fee built in as well. I think that's if I did my math right there. But here's the main thing I'm looking at. I look at 2 things to make sure this is a green light for me. If we're in it for 280 and the value's 350, that's about an 80% cost to value. So that delta between 280 and 350 is really important. I'd like that to be even lower, but for being a turnkey property, he's making his profit. I'm not doing any of the work. I'm pretty happy with that. 80% cost to value for a pretty passive deal for me. And then from the income standpoint, not quite as exciting, but $2,000 a month minus $800 in operating expenses. I tightened that up a little bit from my original estimate for new construction. I think I can do a little bit better on the operating expenses. So $1,200 per month or $14,400 per year is the NOI. And if you divide that by 280,000, which is our total cost, is about a 5.1% unleveraged yield. So that's like if we pay all cash for this property, which I'm going to show you in a second, we're going to use a little bit of debt early on, but we're going to pay that off pretty quickly. So my strategy with this partnership is pretty much to own everything free and clear pretty fast. And so this is a relevant number. Like 5.1% is about what we'll make on our equity invested in this property. But I also feel pretty confident that over the next 10 to 20 years, I can make about a 3 to 4% growth rate as the rent goes up, as the price goes up. So I think it'll be like an 8 or 9% total return. And I'm pretty happy with that. With this investment, with what we're doing, we can do a little bit better. Like we've made 5% growth rates in the past in Clemson, but I think 3 to 4% is probably a reasonable thing to shoot for. And maybe it doesn't do that. Maybe we only get 1% or 2%. And in that case, we make a 6% or a 7% return. So there's always that risk in an entrepreneurship, but we don't have a big risk here. If we have no debt, there's a pretty low risk thing. And I feel very confident we can sell this property because this is a low price in Clemson for a house. So we can liquidate this thing really easily, which also makes me more confident to take a lower return on this deal. All right, so how are we going to get the money to do it? Little background story about this partnership. It's an LLC, and we started this LLC back in like 2012. And this is sort of a side LLC. This is not our main one that my business partner and I own and most of our properties. This is one that we started as kind of as an experiment that worked pretty well, where we had IRA, our self-directed retirement accounts. So mine, my business partners, my wife's, his wife's, we had an HSA, they had an HSA. So we combined like 7 accounts. We still didn't have enough money to buy a property that we originally had under contract. So we brought in a 50% partner who put up his about the same amount of money. So we had 350,000 bucks or so in the original partnership. And he is the manager of the LLC. He's not a disqualified person. So when you deal with self-directed retirement accounts, there's a big list of rules you have to have. And the people you partner with have to be not disqualified. And he was not. He's just a third party who we got to be friends with and wanted to be financial friends and do a deal together. And so we basically came up with 350K, bought 2 duplexes back in 2012, saved up our cash, bought another one in 2020. And you can go watch my YouTube videos. It was that old 105-year-old triplex that we remodeled, had all sorts of issues with during the COVID times. But we ended up buying that one, got a small loan because we were over budget, and then paid that off really quickly. And so we have no debt on any of these properties. And so we have about 8 to 10,000 a month coming in cash flow that we can then save up to use to buy more stuff. And so we had about 230,000 bucks in the bank when we started this deal, and every month it's getting a little bit bigger. So we said we could spend about 200K on a deal and leave 30,000 set aside as a reserve, and then we have new money coming in every month too. So that 200K went to buy the property, actually about 210, because by the time we bought it, we had 240K. So we spent 210,000 to buy the land, and so we have no debt on the land. But now to build the house, we are borrowing, or we already borrowed 210,000 bucks from a private lender. And this has to be a non-personal guarantee. The person who loans the money only has the property as collateral. They can't come after the LLC. That's one of the rules of the types of, if you can borrow money with a self-directed retired LLC, but you can't do it with any kind of personal guarantee. So this private lender knows that. They know that they're going to get a $350,000 property that they're only loaning 210. So if we went away and stopped paying this person, they could take the property back, sell it, get their money back, or keep it as a rental, whatever they want to do. And we're paying them 7% interest as we draw the money. So it's like a construction loan from a private lender. That's where the money's coming from. But our plan is, as soon as we build this house, is to use that extra cash flow from this property and our other properties to pay this off really quickly, hopefully within a 5-year time frame. We also would like to build the other 2 houses. If you looked at our lots, we can build all 3 at one time, but we didn't have enough private lenders to do that. We had one other person who might do it later on, so it's a good timing. So we're just going to go ahead and build one for now, and then maybe later this year start the other 2 as well, if the money is available. If not, we'll just build one, then build the other 2 later on. But that is the overall financial plan. Let me show you some pictures. This is a video I took about a few weeks ago of them tearing the house down. Just getting rid of that. That was kind of cool for a kid who liked to look at dump trucks and bulldozers when I was a kid. That's pretty cool to watch a building go down. And they just put this whole building into the back of this truck and then hauled that off to the landfill. There's also a bunch of trees. We kept the one magnolia tree at the front, but in order to grade the lot, there was like some other little trees. There were some dead trees that had to come down in and around where the house is going to go. There's a power line right here. It's going to go. Thankfully, we don't have to move it. It's right in between 2 lots. So there'll be one lot over here, building lot over here, one right here, and then the third one right here that we're going to start with. So that is the pictures of that. Let me see. I had some pictures of the original property. Did I show you that? Yeah. So I called this the buzzard house at first because I walked up to the house the first time and walked in the backyard, and all of a sudden I hear this big boom, like something landed on the metal roof right above me. And then peeking over the metal roof was a buzzard staring down at me. Not only one, it was like a family of buzzards or vultures. And I thought that was my last day on earth. I was hearing that thing looking down at me with that big loud noise. But it was nasty. There was all sorts of trash everywhere. Let's see if I can get some other pictures to give you a perspective of the inside. Like the back of the house, this door was wide open, so animals were just going in and out, domestic and wild animals. And this whole porch was not to code, needed to come down. The electrical system was shot inside, was bad. It all needed to be redone. The windows as well. What else? Inside the kitchen, they started just like tearing out walls and putting these beams that were not to code either. Just nasty kind of kitchen that all had to be ripped out. Smelled bad, obviously. So it would have been a major project. We've done major projects before, but just the numbers didn't pencil out to do that. But that, so you can see the front of the house there before it came down. That is my random thoughts on this property. Feel free to ask me questions. If I missed something, or you'd like to know something more. My goal is just to be transparent and help you guys out. If you learn from me and the things I'm doing, that'd be awesome. And but you have to ask me some questions to help you do that. So hopefully this is helpful for you, and I'll see you around inside the community. So that was an example of the behind the scenes content I share all the time inside my private community, Rental Property Mastery. It's all about sharing the real numbers, negotiation, financing, spreadsheets, and the real details from my own deals and also deals from members around the country. So if you want coaching, accountability, and a small community of motivated investors who are also moving towards financial freedom with rental properties, then check out Rental Property Mastery at coachcarson.com/mastery. There'll also be a link in the podcast and YouTube description below. And while we're on the subject of new construction rentals, this video shared the details of one particular deal. But the next episode goes into detail about a 5-house development that I did with my builder partner, the one I talked about in this episode. And we share all the details and the pictures of that 5-house development. And we also go into tips and best practices on how you can find and develop your own small build-to-rent developments. If you're watching on YouTube, you can click on the thumbnail above me here, or you can click on the link in the podcast or the YouTube description below. Thanks so much for watching. I'll see you in the next episode.